So thank you very much. That was super interesting, and I do think there's a lot of promise here to change the way we work. So next up, to talk about peak performance with Partytown, I'll try and take a little longer to make sure the setup gets finished. There will be, sorry? Oh. We will have Julian Jandl? Julian Jandl? Oh, German. There we go.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry that I'm from Germany. Yeah. What should I do, huh? What should I do? It's like it wasn't my choice in the first place. So yeah. I was born in there. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. We see my screen. It's a good start, I guess. Yeah. Thank you for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful evening. I try to make it short. The talk is kind of packed full with information. Title you already mentioned is Peak Performance with Partytown, tackling third-party challenges. We had a couple of mentions around GTM, and I will just directly connect to them. This will not be a real talk. It will be more like a fairy tale, maybe. So once upon a time, please bear with me, there was a very poor app. And it suffered from, bad performance. And I think all of you in the room agree, it's time to go to the doctor, right? The doctor can fix your issues. The diagnosis the doctor was giving to the poor app was, man, you have too much third-party software, really. You're suffering from it. And now a quick warning to everyone. Some of the following images are graphic in nature and might be really disturbing for especially this crowd here. Okay? Okay? Don't die here. Ah, it looks so bad. It looks so bad. It looks so bad. Yeah, I will show you a couple of flame charts related to how tracking can fuck up your performance. We see a couple of click events here, and what do we see? Okay, tracking is executed and scheduled. We have a cookie banner. We have reCAPTCHA going on. More stuff. Then we have, a little bit of framework code as well. Oh, framework code. That's the code we actually want to execute, but not the rest of it. More tracking, more tracking, more tracking. Look at it. It looks so bad. And not only tracking in the main thread, but also tracking on the network thread, right? We see GA3, Facebook, FLS, TD, GA4, ad services, stats.g, double click, whatever you can imagine. It's like the marketing department going crazy on GTM, and you cannot do anything about it. And even more, look at this. It's like a second of just tracking on the client. You don't want that. More tracking on navigation. We had that example already from Andreas. Thank you so much for giving that example. Your user just wants to go away from that page. Why do you even bother doing tracking and keeping him on the page? Yeah, network again, bloated with stuff. Oh, a wonderful 1 second long task just because of tracking. I can come up with more, really. Like I have a... maybe it's a kink at this point. Yeah, third parties. Let's talk about third parties. They are a real, they help us, but they let our performance suffer. We can categorize them. There are ads, analytics, libraries, maybe you need them, CDNs, customer success, hosting, and tag manager. Tag manager is the absolute worst. Yeah, every brand has it. You can integrate whatever you want. There's Bing, there's Snapchat, there's TikTok, there's Facebook, there's whatever you can think about. All of them have tracking scripts you can, and marketing team will inject it into your page. Let's talk about some numbers, because as performance engineers, we are obsessed with numbers. And yeah, 94% of all web pages in the whole world have at least one third party, okay? Let's take a look at the top ranked pages, and if we see the top ranked 1,000 pages here, we see we have 53 or 43 mobile on mobile pages, 43 different third parties on just one homepage. It's not even like 42 of your connections go to somewhere else. It's not your scripts. Third parties make up for kind of half of the traffic of the whole web. That's crazy. 34% of all scripts are third-party requests. And scripts are the dangerous parts here, which means that around 16% of the whole web is run by third-party JavaScript. That's crazy. Yes, and they do have a performance impact. They compete with your first-party script, right? So you write your code that has to have priority. They compete with it. You cannot really opt out because marketing team wants them. And you cannot do anything about their performance because you don't maintain their scripts. It's like their scripts, not your scripts. And all of that mostly impacts INP. Your sites will just suffer in terms of responsiveness. Like people have to click and then wait and wait and wait because all of the tracking has to go on, and then they see something. And the worst of all of them is GTM, the Google Tag Manager. We heard a couple of times mentioning that already. It's really no personal offense against Google whatsoever, but the Tag Manager thing is like, people can go wild with it. Because this is like a portal that opens up for anyone to include everything, right? You can include just plain everything, and you as a developer probably have not even any idea of what is going on there because you have no control over it. You just include GTM. So what does GTM do? We heard about this data layer.push thing, and this is what they do. They have a monkey patch internally on an array. They monkey patch the method push, and whenever someone hits data layer.push, they execute whatever container is like registered, and then all of them register on any event, any function. Let's give you an example of one of the biggest apps we were working on, how this looks like in production without any optimization. The slide says bwin. Bwin is not accessible from the Netherlands, so I switched to one Brazilian brother of it, which is called Sporting Bet. Same app, just a different theme and operating in a different country. Just so that you see, I'm not tricking you, I'm refreshing the page. It's a sports betting page. I hope no one is against sports betting here. And let's do a performance measurement here. So I'm throttling my CPU a bit. And what I'm going to do is clicking here, adding something into my bet slip, maybe adding this as well. And we can take a look at that. It's not a video, awesome. It's challenging here. Okay, we have a click event listener here. And we see a lot of things going on. And we see here 140 milliseconds, right? And this MacBook 4 times throttled is like at least 100 times faster than Brazilian mobile phones. You can trust me. We see the actual numbers. And we see here 80 milliseconds is just spent on b.push, and this is tracking on a click event. Why do we even do that here? It doesn't make sense at all. And the whole flame chart itself, it looks like a just yellow wall of sadness. You see that? Yeah. Really, yeah, that's what I would call it. And all of it is just full with data layer events. It's crazy. Yeah, and we do not really want to have them. We see here or also here GTM. If we search for it, yeah, GTM's doing its stuff. Obviously, we can also see initiators running on the main thread. Yeah, so whatever we do on this web page, Google Tag Manager calls b.push before we can do anything. Navigate away, showing some update on our UI. That's not what we want. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Julian Jandl. I'm engineering manager at the company Pushbased, also performance engineer. That's why I'm here, and I'm so happy to be here. The conference is so amazing, 4th time in a row. And yeah, let's talk about the therapy to cure our poor app. One of the things that we want to introduce to get rid of stuff being executed on the main thread is introducing web workers, for example. Let's talk about web workers. They can communicate with the window through a messaging pipeline. It has a different scope than the window itself, and it has access to a couple of JavaScript primitives and constructs, such as fetch or other APIs. What you cannot do, for example, is use send beacons, so it just misses out a couple of APIs. It also, and that's the biggest problem, it cannot access DOM directly. If you run a script in a web worker, it cannot really access DOM. You can kind of indirectly do it, and that's what Partytown does. But what does it mean? You are in a third-party script, and you run it in a worker, and you want to read document title. It fails. Reference error, document is not defined. Same goes for this. You want to just fetch an element. Fails. Document is just not defined still. You want to send a beacon, because that's what analytics scripts do. They send beacons. You cannot, because it's not supported in web workers. So yeah, it just comes up with a lot of limitations. And also, if you, for example, have in your first-party script, you store something on the window, and you want to read it in your third-party script in a web worker, you cannot read it because different threads, different scope. It's undefined. And that's a problem because you as a developer have no idea what third parties do and you do not want to care about it, right? You just want to move them away and they still should function in some or the other way. So in an essence, the worker itself is just not equipped with the right tools for the job that we want it to do. But now here comes the Partytown solution. Partytown built kind of a wrapper around this whole worker thread. They call it the worker proxy, in which they kind of have a mock of the whole environment that you have on your main thread in your worker thread. And whenever your worker thread wants to access something from the main thread, it just sends an HTTP request to it. And that's something that I learned new, that there's the concept of sending synchronous HTTP request. Kind of cool. So if you open a new XML HTTP request and you set the third variable to false, it will be a synchronous HTTP request. So your thread will be blocked for the time being as this one is running. And this is how the worker tries to ask always the main thread, hey, give me something from the document. It says document.title, okay, I send an HTTP request to my main thread, wait for the answer, and then I continue with my script. That's the whole idea behind it. So let's make it visual, right? So we have our click event on the main thread, then we have a worker thread down there. We call it track event function, and on the worker, it wants to read title. So what does it do? Send an HTTP request that ends up in the main thread. Main thread actually reads title, gets the answer, sends it back to the worker, worker progresses. And that's the whole magic behind it. Here in a bit, in a better visual appearance maybe, so just highlighted the most important parts. So essentially it's really a network traffic connection between main thread and worker thread. So let's integrate that thing. Well, you in npm install a package, you put a script tag into your head, and then you specify what scripts should run in the Partytown context by giving it a type of text Partytown instead of type text JavaScript. Partytown bootstraps creates the environment, you see it in the log, and then I would love to tell you the worker and the app happily lived along ever after, but well, you can guess. That's not the truth, because in reality what you will face is kind of a red wall of errors if you firstly integrate it. I mean, maybe you're lucky and everything just works, but this is what we experienced. So there are a lot of issues, and this one here specifically is a course issue. Because the worker has a different origin. And yeah, the worker has a different method of fetching scripts, so it's not a script tag that is executed anymore. It just scrapes off the URL and then does an actual fetch request. And this kind of fails. So yeah, it requires course headers for the fetch. So the doctor says, maybe it's time for a reverse proxy in this case. Yes, and Partytown supports that by a configuration. It's called resolve URL. You can just say, okay, if it's Facebook or if it's Google or whatever requires course headers, then just parse it here. And whatever it is, implement your own reverse proxy, mimic that it's coming from your domain, and everything is good. So yeah, that should look good. Let's deploy it to beta. Yeah, maybe. Smart move. We tried. Yeah, that's it's not our image, but this is actually how our tracking dashboard looked like. We integrate Partytown. We're happy with the results. No errors anymore, but also no tracking anymore. Yeah, where is our tracking gone? Okay. Cannot be that hard. We will figure it out. That's what we thought, and then one eternity later, it was the hardest debugging session of my entire life. Going through minified GTM JS code, it was tricky as hell. Yeah, a lot of debugging screenshots. But in the end, I figured something out. Someone is accessing global here, this token here, global, inside of a third-party script. And Partytown was smart enough to tell me, hey, I know this type. I know what global should be. It should be a window, so I give you a whole new environment. And with giving me a whole new environment, everything died. So what we should do is just patch the global property with the document. That's the current fix. So we are again here in Partytown scope, right? Text type text Partytown. So this script runs in the worker context, and we just tell Partytown global is document. Everything was fine after that. we thought, but still some events were missing. So you have manual data layer executions, not only triggered by GTM itself. So someone in the actual first-party code in the application called push on an event on the data layer. Yeah, well, but we learned before that they do not share the same scope. So if you push it on the main thread, it's not available on the worker thread. So you have to tell Partytown there are a couple of methods. When they are invoked on the main thread, just forward them to the worker. Okay? Awesome. So now we can do the same trick. We push from the main thread and the worker has access to it. It's insane. However, even after that, still a couple of events were missing. And there's a concept of global functions. So this one is Bing tracking. It just like defines some functions on the global scope with names. And Partytown is not aware of that because it has a different environment. It's not aware of that scope. So you have to tell it about it. Yeah, this is what's happening inside of GTM. It sees the function, is it there or not? If it's there, then execute. If it's not, then don't execute it. So we have to tell Partytown with this configuration, global functions, those are some tokens you have in a global scope. Just use them from the main thread. Yes, that was insane improvement. Tracking was back. Still, our console was a bit bloated with errors. And the last thing that we used also comes out of the box is run scripts on main thread. There are a couple of scripts that you will never be able to move in the worker. And for this, you have a fallback. It's called run scripts on main thread. So whenever Partytown detects, okay, this is also here, it was even invoked or fetched by the worker, but it is part of this exception here, run scripts on main thread, then just move it back into the main thread and let it live there and let it just be happy there. It's okay. So we were fine with this. And after all those tries, we deployed to production, and that's what I want to show you now. Again, not bwin, so it's the Brazilian brother, but this time with Partytown. Let's quickly double check. Should be the correct URL. And again, I'm not tricking you. Partytown is downloaded. You see all of those Proxytown requests. That's the communication layer that establishes communication between main and worker thread. That's what Partytown calls it, Proxytown. And now we can do the same measurement again. And I am still trying to not trick you, so CPU throttling going on. Add something to my bad slip, please. That's amazing. Let's check our profile again. Okay, and now here in our click event, we should not see any execution of Partytown anymore. This is just our first party code, and same goes for this click event here. There's no GTM anymore, but where is it gone? We still see here a lot of yellow stuff is getting executed, and now we see here a different track, and this is called the Partytown track, because this is where our worker code is executed. And this thing here now is full of work, like literally full of work, because we moved everything there. And we can also see here in the network trace all of those tiny Proxytown requests, because whenever this one here appears, the worker tried to access some API from the main thread, right? So had to send the synchronous HTTP request back to the main thread, wait for the answer, go back. And those scripts can be create a link tag, set an attribute on it, read it, I don't know, set properties, then inject it to the head, and that requires then 7 HTTP requests back and forth. This is just how it works. 1 second. Real-world measurements. This is the most important part, really. On this app, 20 million users a day. We reduced by introducing Partytown and all of the hassle we had to went over. INP by 75%. That was absolutely ridiculous, super crazy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Overview about the configuration in case anyone wants to use that in your environment, what we are using. And if they didn't die, they are still configuring Partytown. Pitfalls I can skip over. This is what you have seen. Proxytown can be annoying. You see here in the bottom 50,000 requests. So yeah. Just looks annoying. But this is the end, and there's the QR code. If you want to have the slides available, just like use the QR code. You will find a link to the slides. Thank you very much for having me. Enjoy the rest of the evening.